Do players ever struggle to hear your instructions when you're in a really loud stadium?
When it's not loud to stadium, they don't listen to us. They don't understand that. We do it for ourselves to bring out the energy, but they don't understand us. It's too far away. They are playing. It's a stupid thing when you say, do this, do that, when they are playing in the other part of the pitch, the other side of the pitch, so it's impossible.
Hey guys, welcome back to the best place on the internet for the most entertaining football content. Yes, we probably caught your attention with this topic because we know almost everything about Guardiola.
No, don't talk to me about Guardiola.
His trophies, clubs, tactics, best players.
You don't like to touch balls?
Sure, go, commit.
But we rarely think about which are actually the worst transfers of his career.
I'm a failure.
And since you obviously like the same idea, but for Jose Mourinho in one of our recent uploads, let's start with number 10, Martin Caceres. You probably know him from his time at Juventus in the 2010s, but Caceres' first big club was Barcelona, who signed him back in 2008. Interestingly, the Uruguayan defender was Guardiola's first signing of his managerial career, brought in from Villarreal for around 16.5 million euros. He was expected to bolster Barcelona's defence, especially after the departure of veteran Lilian Thuram, who had just left a few weeks earlier. Guardiola envisioned Caceres as a versatile defender, capable of playing both at centre-back and right-back. However, the Uruguayan struggled to adapt to Guardiola's tactical system, which required technical ability and composure on the ball, two areas in which Caceres faltered. Despite his aggressive defensive style, his lack of comfort in Guardiola's build-from-the-back approach led to limited playing time, with just 13 La Liga appearances in his debut season. He was a failure, to say the least, and wasn't even given a chance to prove himself when Rafa Marquez and Dani Alves were injured. Still, he was Pep's first transfer, so we'll give him a pass for this one. Number 9, Jack Grealish. Yes, we'll probably challenge many of you to share your views on the eternal debate. Is Jack Grealish a failure for Man City? When he arrived at the Etihad for £100 million, breaking the British transfer record, it was expected that he would take with him his excellent form at Aston Villa, but from his first games in blue, it was clear that something was wrong. He was less sharp, less dangerous, and many claimed that he had no impact on the team. This was later refuted by Pep, who made it clear that Jack wasn't brought in for the goals and assists. Wow. Really? He was one of the most entertaining players to watch at Villa Park, scoring and assisting week in, week out, but then Pep's tactics turned him into a completely different player. Despite the lack of convincing stats, Grealish has not been without influence. His dribbling, ball retention, and ability to draw fouls have given City a tactical advantage, especially when it comes to breaking down tough defences. It is also the reason why he is the preferred choice over Jeremy Doku, for example, against top-tier teams. However, for many fans, his hefty fee and minimal direct contributions have led to debates over whether he's really justified the investment. So it's up to you to decide the outcome of this debate in the comment section below. Also, a very quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Number 8, Mario Götze. Failure at Barca, then an unfulfilled talent at Man City. Now, it is time for a Bayern Munich player as well. His €32 million move from arch-rivals Borussia Dortmund was highly anticipated. After a brilliant last season at Signal Iduna Park, where he recorded a total of 30 goal contributions, Götze was expected to be a game changer at Bayern. His technical prowess and creativity seemed a perfect fit for Guardiola's tactical philosophy, and indeed he showed it in his first season and half in Munich. But then he sank deep down the pecking order under Pep. Injuries hampered his progress, particularly in his second and third seasons, and Götze struggled to cement a starting place in Guardiola's star-studded midfield, which included Bastian Schweinsteiger, Thiago, Xavi Alonso, and Xavi Martinez. That's why, shortly after Guardiola's departure, Götze also made his exit. Number 7, Nolito. The former Celta man is a relatively forgotten footballer, and what's more, he's part of that group of players who have suddenly disappeared from big-time football, and no one knows what happened with them, like Alvaro Negredo and Flamini, for example. So it's no surprise that this is one of Pep Guardiola's most disappointing transfers. Nolito was actually one of Pep's very early signings in Manchester, coming in the same season that the Catalan specialist arrived from Bayern Munich. The striker was quite experienced at a high level, having played for Celta in La Liga. He was actually expected to be the creative force on the left wing and seemed to fit well into Guardiola's tactical system. However, things quickly unravelled for the Spanish attacker. Despite a promising start, scoring 6 goals in his first 11 games, he struggled to maintain form and adapt to the physicality of the Premier League. By the end of the 2016-17 season, he'd fallen out of favour and saw limited game time, finishing the campaign with just 9 league appearances. Reportedly, one of the main reasons for his failure was his family's struggle to adapt to life in Manchester, which was the turning point for his time in England. Number 6. Claudio Bravo. We all know Pep Guardiola's affinity for elite ball-playing goalkeepers like Victor Valdez, Manuel Neuer and Edison at the moment. However, when he arrived at Man City, he was faced with a big problem. Joe Hart, the Citizens' number 1 at the time, was a great shot stopper, but his ball playing wasn't good enough. So Guardiola didn't want to pay a big sum for a goalkeeper, hoping to solve the problem for as little money as possible. Yes, the Man City boss only paid Barcelona 17 million euros for the team's backup goalkeeper, Claudio Bravo, but as the famous saying goes, buy it wise or buy it twice. And that's exactly what happened a year later when City paid 2.5 times more for Edison. Bravo, on the other hand, was just not convincing enough. He was solid from time to time, but not enough to be Man City's first choice goalkeeper. He made his debut against Man United, and in just his first game, he made a mistake that could have cost City dearly. A couple of games later, Leo Messi and Jamie Vardy both made fun of him, making dummies and putting the ball into an empty net. But the icing on the cake was the silly red card he received at the Camp Nou when he first made a terrible mistake, giving the ball to Luis Suarez and then trying to save his shot from outside the penalty area. Number 5, Mehdi Benatia. At this stage in the list about Jose Mourinho, which you can find on the Blue Card channel, things looked far more frightening. Many of you might say, no, Benatia wasn't that bad to be in such a ranking. Well, if we're talking about some mediocre coaches, like Erik ten Hag for example, maybe not, but by Guardiola's standards, it was a real disaster. His absolute highlight was the early goal against Barcelona at the Allianz Arena in the Champions League semi-final, which gave Bayern some hope of a comeback after losing 3-0 in the first leg, but everything else was terrible from the Moroccan. In 2 seasons in Munich, Benatia had just made 29 Bundesliga appearances out of a possible 68. Yes, it's a fact that he was plagued by injuries, but even when he was on the pitch, he was far from convincing. Numerous errors, some of them costly, and also some disturbing red cards, like the one against Man City in the Champions League group stage in 2014. Number 4. Dmytro Chyhrynskyi. Barcelona fans, have you ever heard of this guy? Because we certainly haven't, and looking at his career overview, we're quite impressed. Shakhtar Donetsk, Dnipro, some other Ukrainian clubs, AEK Athens, and somewhere in between, Barcelona. We don't know how Dmytro Chyhrynskyi really did it, but kudos to him. Just because he played for Barca, however, doesn't mean he did well. He arrived at the Camp Nou in 2009 for a solid fee of 25 million euros from Shakhtar. With a reputation as a very talented young ball-playing defender, he even had a clause in his contract to play for Shakhtar in the European Super Cup final, despite already being a Barcelona player. And coincidentally, it was against the Catalans. Although he was indeed good on the ball, he wasn't solid enough for the dynamics of the La Liga, and logically, he didn't manage to secure a place in the starting 11. In the end, he only featured in 14 La Liga games and could easily be called one of Guardiola's worst transfers, as he was sold back to Shakhtar the following summer for just 15 million, making a loss of 10 million from that transfer alone. Number 3. Benjamin Mendy. Where do we even start? Terrible form, a series of injuries, little involvement in the attack, and finally, these rape allegations against him. Benjamin Mendy could be counted not only among the worst Guardiola transfers, but also among the lowest in Man City's entire history. I don't know. He was terrible in every department of the team, he had no close people in the team, had no influence in the dressing room, and soon after, Guardiola and his staff deeply regretted wasting £50 million on him. Yes, before his arrival at the Etihad, he had a fantastic season with Monaco, reaching the Champions League semi-finals and bagging 9 goal contributions in 2016-17. Well, to really compare that to his disasters in England, he didn't play more than 30 games in a single season with Man City and ended his career with the Citizens with 14 goal involvements in 5 seasons. But if Mendy is third, who are the players who are even deeper than him? Well, let's find out. Number 2. Kalvin Phillips. Kalvin Phillips, the guy who was supposed to be the next great defensive midfielder for England, and indeed he was that man during Euro 2020, but his career took a downturn soon after. In 2022, Man City paid Leeds United around 50 million euros for him, with the expectation that he would be a key part of City's midfield, especially as a backup and future replacement for Rodri. Phillips struggled to make an impact at the Etihad, however, and a year later, the citizens left him completely out of the team's dynamics, buying a player with a similar profile in Núñez from Wolves. On his unofficial debut in a friendly against Barcelona, Phillips injured his shoulder, was out for almost 2 months, then was called up for the 2022 World Cup, and surprisingly or not, came back from the tournament overweight. This was seen as very unprofessional by Man City's doctors and coaches, which automatically meant he was unlikely to get many opportunities to play. And now, he's on loan for the second season in a row, currently at Ipswich Town, having failed to impress at West Ham last season. Number 1, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Yes, wait, hold on. Some might say, how could Zlatan be a worse transfer than Phillips, Mendy, or even Bravo? Well, hear us out. He is by far the worst transfer of Guardiola's career, and for several reasons. Firstly, we can't start with anything other than his transfer fee. He was brought in from Inter Milan for around 70 million euros, which was really a lot of money at the time, in 2009. 70 million 15 years ago could have been more than 100 million in 2024. But that's not all. In the opposite direction went Samuel Eto'o, who had become an absolute legend at Barca. Goals in 2 Champions League finals, a treble in 2009, and numerous other priceless accolades. And well, in that same 2009-10 season, Eto'o won the treble again, this time with Inter, and the icing on the cake was his win over Barcelona in the semi-finals, which immediately made the Zlatan to Eto'o swap one of the worst in the club's history. Of course, we can't overlook another big reason, Zlatan's tough temper, as he had no intention of complying with Guardiola's demands. Pep, on the other hand, wanted to use Ibrahimovic not in his preferred position as a number 9, but as a rotational player on the wings, as Messi had become the undisputed false 9 by then and his role was untouchable. In the end, Zlatan only scored 21 goals that season and was sent to AC Milan the very next summer, losing more than 45 million euros, as the Rossarini didn't want to pay more than 24 million for the Swede. Now share your views in the comment section. Do you agree with us? Or do you have a different opinion on some of the names on the list? Also, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell button if you enjoyed that one, or just check some of our last uploads. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.